Now, I know you've been waiting for me to mention the latest lockdown restrictions. To be honest, I would rather not have to, but knowing what we know about how the police respond to new guidance, I think it's important to touch on the subject. 4 days ago, on Thursday, the 17th, Priti Patel commented on the then situation, saying that police should only take action against egregious COVID breaches, egregious meaning outstandingly bad or shocking, such as raves or house parties. She said, "We've been living with coronavirus throughout this year. The British public are incredibly sensible in terms of exercising their own judgment." Adding that the British public were incredibly sensible and that the police officers should only clamp down on more serious rule flouting. However, on BBC Breakfast the same day, she insisted that nothing has changed with how coronavirus laws will be policed over Christmas. Adding that we are not here to criminalise people around Christmas, which is why we have clear guidance around 3 households over the Christmas period of 5 days. But said she herself would report someone to the police if she witnessed them breaking coronavirus laws over Christmas. Nice to see that good old Christmas spirit shining through. However, proving just how the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing within government, just 48 hours ago, as we all know, Boris Cromwell has now shat all over the general public once again in a move that has completely destroyed the Christmas spirit in so many people who were looking forward to plans of a family meal with their loved ones for possibly the first time in 10 months. Not only that, but he has conjured up a brand new Tier 4 in what I can see to only be an attempt to see just how much further the government can continue to take from us, while the general public generally just bend over, lube up, and accept his shaft of tyranny, balls deep. The fact that Boris Cromwell said in the press conference that he doesn't want to ban or cancel Christmas, I think he's done a pretty good job of doing just that which he purports not to be doing, with the vast majority of the UK population not even realising it. He went on to say that, "I think that would be frankly inhuman and against the instincts of many people in this country." But, yet again, has done exactly that which he calls inhuman. Adding that, nor do we want to criminalise plans people may have made for some time. But, yet again, for a third time, managing to do just the opposite. Now, I do want to be clear for those people who don't really pay attention to my videos before trying to call me out in the comments. I do believe there is a virus. I've never denied that fact. In my opinion, there is nothing to suggest that it's a hoax. However, I certainly don't believe it's anywhere near as bad as being made out, and never has been. There isn't a single thing that the government have said that they can back up, by which I'm talking not about their words or graphs. Anyone can make up words and graphs to suit their narrative or agenda, but nothing has been shown to the public that we can confidently say, "Oh yeah, I've seen that for myself." Even a large number of the scientific community fail to agree with the government's Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies, otherwise known as the SAGE Advisory Group, with regards to the actions taken. I mean, think about it. If it was as bad as being made out, why continue to allow people into the country throughout? Why allow people to mix regardless to the numbers in a group of people mixing? Why were there no strict measures put in place at the very beginning, when the alleged science showed that so many people were and would die from the virus? Apart from the fact that the numbers were inflated, if their numbers were really as high as being made out, then why didn't they then implement strict measures at the very beginning? Nothing they have done indicates that the virus is as dangerous as they're making out, but yet so many people are still touching their toes, asking Boris to push his balls in too. Even this new strain of the virus, which is supposed to be far more virulent than the first, they have known about it for weeks. In fact, there is some talk that they've known about it since September, and should have known that there was a new mutation was inevitable, as with all viruses, especially when they have such a large amount of scientific advisors on the SAGE panel. But they completely failed to plan for it or let people know it was here. Are these the actions of a government who's concerned over a deadly virus? This whole Tier 4 implementation is, in my opinion, a complete waste of time. And as I've said before, a virus's main goal is to reproduce. It is not willingly going to kill its host, as it needs it to keep reproducing. So killing its host is suicide for the virus. Yes, some people will die due to incompatibilities with the virus and their immune system defences, as will happen with every strain of virus, and bacteria for that matter. Sad as it is, people will die from it, but such is the nature of life. The key here, I think, is not preventing it from spreading, as it will never be prevented from spreading. The key is learning to live with it. Locking people down, removing their rights, is not going to save lives. It might give someone an extra year of life, but ultimately, if they're going to die from it, they're going to die from it regardless of what you do. And people should not be made to live their remaining days, weeks, months or years locked up like a fucking prisoner with no outside contact, no physical contact, no mental stimulation, which will probably kill them far, far quicker than any flu virus. With this all in mind, police have had their say, or in some cases have taken action in order to show where they stand. And in most cases, it's against the people. The Police Service of Northern Ireland have said that they take no satisfaction in issuing fines over the coronavirus regulations, but continue to do it, even though they are most likely unlawful and are doing far more damage to the public than Mary popping round to give Jack some company. Assistant Chief Constable Alan Todd of the Police Service of Northern Ireland said that enforcement was used where people blatantly decided to breach the regulations or have done so recklessly or haven't listened to reason. When you take an approach that is flexible and graduating from explaining and encouragement through to enforcement, the outcome to a degree depends on the attitude of the people police are dealing with. Which is true to a certain extent, but when you have a lack of continuity when educating police staff, not just in Northern Ireland but across the UK, then police constables will inevitably end up acting on emotion and their own ideas on the pandemic. This largely comes down to police being given discretion in this particular area. We've seen many videos of police completely skipping and the explain and encourage part of the engage, explain, encourage and enforce policy, leaving people with the fixed penalty notices even though they've done nothing wrong. Almost as if the police on the ground have been told to simply issue them and let the public argue it out in court if they want to, almost knowing that most people will simply pay the fine. Todd went on to say that, so if people take the advice and guidance, then there won't be any need for enforcement. In other words, if you simply do what we say, it'll be better for you. Sounds a bit like a backhanded threat to me. He added, we've been consistent in its approach, and where we have ended up enforcing it is because people have either blatantly decided to breach the regulations or have done so recklessly or haven't listened to reason. You can take individual circumstances and say there were different outcomes, therefore there must have been a different policing approach. No, the approach has been consistent. The outcomes may have been different. Part and parcel of this is down to the attitude of the individual or individuals that police have found themselves dealing with. Again, blaming you, me, the public for the police's approach, when we have seen clearly that in many situations this is not the case. Unfortunately, the majority of people who read newspapers or listen to the mainstream media are not the type of people to see what's really going on when a member of the public uploads a video to YouTube. Now, with the Police Service of Northern Ireland Assistant Chief Constable blaming the public for the way that they're policing the rules, here in England, after Boris Cromwell's U-turn over the Christmas plans, Matt Smallcock seemed to suggest on Sunday that police would be asked to stop people attempting to leave Tier 4 areas. However, Martin Hewitt of the National Police Chief Council denied that they will be doing that. Martin Hewitt said, we will step up visibility to encourage the public to follow the rules. There is no intention to establish roadblocks or routinely stop vehicles. Ken Marsh of the Police Federation also made some platitudes over the government's U-turn by saying that Boris Johnson had lost the goodwill of the people over Christmas after breaking promises. It doesn't make sense, he said. It's going to be no different now from how it was. We're not going to be knocking on people's doors on Christmas Day. We have no power of entry. It's just a shame because I don't think people are going to take much notice. You've lost the goodwill of the public. They're so frustrated. But the problem is these people in charge of these organisations are so far removed from what's actually happening on the ground. They can say pretty much what they want to make themselves look good. But then frontline police who have not been trained properly on the rules are out there policing how they think it should be done, not how it's been said it should be done. Even Scotland contradict themselves after saying that they won't be routinely stopping vehicles crossing the border in a bid to prevent the spread of the alleged new strain, more virulent strain of COVID, but then double the number of police at the borders. In a statement, Police Scotland Chief Constable Ian Livingston said it would not be appropriate or proportionate for officers to establish checkpoints or roadblocks to simply enforce travel restrictions. But, he added, today I've authorised the doubling of our operational presence in the border areas of Scotland. These highly visible patrols will be proactively deployed on our road networks and continue our operational activity to ensure drivers and vehicles are in a fit condition to drive. That old chestnut. Stop them to see if they've been drinking, which under law the police can stop any vehicle for any reason at any time, as it's an offence to fail to stop for a constable in uniform, and then use that opportunity to fish for information as to where you're going and where you've been. This is the police's way of skirting the fact that they have no powers to stop people to check for COVID rule breakers. So stop them under the guise of another reason. Just like the I smell cannabis, in order to search your vehicle and look for a reason to nick you. This whole situation is turning into a clown show, and in my own opinion, literally nothing the government has said or done has given any credence to the fact that there could be a virus that's so dangerous that these measures are needed. All I can say to you is that if you are having people over for Christmas, and I have to say, although I don't say anything that I think could get people in trouble or encourage people to break the law, preservation of your mental health, in my opinion, is a valid reason to ignore the bullshit. I suggest that for you, your sanity and your physical health, you should be spending time with your loved ones. You have been kept away from one another for some 10 months. Some of you have known people who have died in that time, and you've not been able to see them before or say goodbye after. And that is one of the worst things I could imagine. And so remember, being stopped by the police and asked where you are going and where you have been is a stop and account. A stop and account is not an enforceable action by police, and you have every right to ignore their request to engage, and you can simply walk away. The police cannot use that alone as suspicion that you've committed any kind of offence. And if they then decide to stop and search you for not wanting to account for yourself, then this could be seen as a malicious stop. You're under no obligation to give details under a stop and account. A stop and search, unfortunately, is slightly different, and I imagine the police using this in order to try and find some ID on somebody should they fail to stop an account so that they can issue them a fine. But yet they must have a reasonable suspicion that you have committed an offence. Not telling them where you've been or where you're going is not reasonable grounds for suspicion, although they will likely say it is and search you anyway. So always make sure that you are filming the interaction from the very start as proof for your claim against the police if they do. And if you're in a vehicle and are stopped by police, remember that you are under no obligation to speak to the police. You can simply give them your driver details and proof of insurance if you have it with you, and remain completely silent. Do not open your mouth. Do not open your window fully. But if you do not have your driver details with you, then you will need to engage with the police to tell them that you haven't got them. Then verbally give them your details and tell them that you're happy to take your proof to a police station within 7 days, and then remain silent again. Do not be bullied into giving up your rights. They are the only thing protecting you. And lastly, if you do have people over at Christmas and you get an unexpected knock at the door, simply don't answer it. Look out the window first, and if it's an uninvited guest, ignore it. Make sure that your door's locked so nobody can simply walk in, and carry on with your festivities. The only time police can make entry to your home is if they have a warrant, if they are in the process of following someone suspected of a crime, or if they've arrested someone and your property is somewhere they have access to. Big thank you to channel supporters, especially these guys. Your support really does ensure I can continue putting out content. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, film the police and other official.